Hello Varlets. Today we're going to take a deep dive and learn about our canine companion. In this video, you'll learn how your dog behaves, how its damage works, and how to really max out its potential so that it becomes the main character of your loadout. By the end of this guide, you'll know pretty much everything there is to make the bestest boy or girl fight alongside you in the best way that it can. So let's get it on. Let's start with how our dog behaves. At base, your dog will automatically attack anything that is within 6 meters of you, but it can also acquire targets that are up to 16 meters away from you. As far as tagging goes, your dog can reach up to the tagging limit of 100 meters away, so if you can ping it, your dog can reach it. Remember that your ping only lasts for 25 seconds. Your dog will stop attacking something that is outside of its natural acquisition radius once the ping has worn off. When it comes to its attacks, your dog has 3 different attack profiles depending on what kind of target it's given. If it is a man-sized enemy, which is anything that isn't an ogre or a monster, then it will pounce and chew out the enemy, disabling it and damaging it over time until it dies or you tag a different enemy to pounce on. If you tag an ogre, your dog will tackle it and bounce right off it, staggering the ogre in the process. If you tag a monster, your dog will instead leap on it and chomp on it before leaping off. Here is the damage profile for the different attacks. When it comes to human-sized enemies, the damage it deals at base is pretty decent when it comes to attacking shooters and maybe some of the ranged elites and specials. But when it comes to taking down tankier elites like ragers and maulers, the damage is pretty lacking, taking way too long to bring down a single one. For non-human enemies, its damage profile changes to be more bursty. However, given the enemies in question, the damage output at base relative to their health, it isn't anything to write home about. If anything, the crowd control and stagger that the dog applies when tackling these elites is the real useful part of this attack, since it can stop mutants and break open bulwarks. I know the numbers don't look encouraging right now, but as we explore the rest of the dog-related talents, we'll see some critical nodes that send the damage output through the roof. Now, let's talk about another damage profile that is tied to the dog. Remote detonation, or the dog bomb as it's colloquially known. Taking the remote detonation blitz gives you the ability to set off an electrical discharge that originates from your dog. You get 3 charges to use that replenishes at a rate of 1 charge every 60 seconds. This means with judicious usage, you will never run out of having a blitz ability that offers a lot of benefits to your kit, as you will see. But for now, let's take a look at the damage profile. At a glance, remote detonation does decent damage against non-armored enemies, but suffers quite a bit against flak and carapace, dealing only between 50 to 20% damage against these targets. As indicated by the table, there are 2 parts to the detonation, the explosion itself, and the electrocution tick damage. Because the tick damage has some randomness to it, it randomly ticks faster or slower, the total damage output of the remote detonation can vary, so that's why I've given you the expected averages instead. Sometimes it does enough to outright kill an enemy, and sometimes it leaves them barely alive. Though after buffing up the damage, this won't really be a problem anymore. The actual explosion mechanic of this blitz is very similar to the veteran's frag grenade. It has an extremely steep fall off from the center of the explosion. Damage-wise, the enemies that are within 2 meters of the explosion will take full damage. But beyond that and up until 6 meters, your detonation damage will fall off by as much as 50%. Anything further than 6 meters or so basically receives no blast damage and only takes a little bit of electrocution tick damage. Remote detonation also has a stagger component. Enemies that are within 2 meters of the blast will be heavily staggered, strong enough to stagger monsters and knock down crushers and maulers. Like its damage, however, the stagger strength of the blast falls off the further enemies are away from the center. So, for maximum crowd control effectiveness, you'll want to time your detonation to where the dog is right next to your target for maximum impact. I thought it would also be useful to know that while remote detonation has a strong unyielding damage, it actually does reduce explosive damage to most of the monsters. Plague Ogres and Beasts of Nurgles take 25% less damage, while Demon Hosts take 50% less. Only Chaos Spawns take the full damage as listed. Another interesting note about remote detonation. When you activate it, it first applies a 0 damage stagger before dealing the explosion and electrocution damage. Why does this matter? Because you apply a powerful stagger first, it means you can boost the detonation damage by simply having the Breaking Descent aura equipped for free 10% damage. This will also inform us how we can further boost the damage later on. Next, let's talk about the real juicy part of this video. How can we boost our Cyber-Mastiff's damage to the extreme? We already established that the dog's damage profile is its own, so anything that boosts melee or range damage isn't going to work. What does work are the handful of Cyber-Mastiff specific talents that directly increases its damage. This includes Unleash Brutality, Go Get 'em, Bloodlust, Kill Order, and Execution Order. All of these buffs are additive to the calculation of your dog's damage output, so you can just simply add all the buffs together and your dog will get that extra damage for its direct attacks. Something I want to talk about for a bit is deciding on which one is more useful, Unleash Brutality or Go Get 'em. In my opinion and experience, I would say that Go Get 'em is superior to Unleash Brutality in most situations. Here's why. Not only does Go Get 'em boost your direct damage against ranged elites by 50%, which is substantial for breakpoints as far as ranged elites go, but it also gives your dog an absurdly long acquisition range, almost tripling it from 16 meters at base to 45 meters. This allows your dog to roam beyond its usual engagement range to attack ranged enemies that might be out of your reach. Having your dog's acquisition range become so big also allows us to observe some interesting things too. Your dog doesn't engage enemies that aren't aggroed on you. This means that it won't just run off and start pissing off enemies that have not noticed your presence yet, which is a good thing. You don't want to start drawing attention to yourself before you are ready for it. But the moment an enemy has marked you as a target, your dog will immediately barrel down the lane and leap at them, even if you can't see them. There's more. Go Get 'em gives your dog a new behavior that you can't normally command, the ability to prioritize attacking shooters by default. Not elites like shotgunners and gunners, but the regular pleb shooters. You see, you can't normally ping these enemies, meaning without Go Get 'em, you can't explicitly tell your dog to harass and kill shooters, which is a really good benefit to have in the higher levels of gameplay, since they can be a real pain in the ass to deal with while you are busy with the front line. But with this talent, your dog will zoom straight towards them and start killing them, assuming they are aggroed on you, leaving you free to focus on the elites and specials, which will generally walk towards you anyway. Plus, if you need to recall your dog back to you because you're being pushed back by elites and specials, it also means you have something in front of you to tag to summon your dog back by your side. So, it's for these reasons that I find Go Get 'em to be the superior talent for your dog. It just allows it to do so much more than it normally can. With that out of the way, let's talk about the indirect methods of increasing your dog's damage output. For this, we really only have 3 methods. Bleed from Razorjaw Augment, Electrocute from Voltaic Mandibles Augment, and Brittleness from Serrated Maw. As you can see, all of these are debuffs applied to the enemies attacked by your dog, and the damage boost it gives can range from okay to significant. Of these 3 talents, by far the most important one you must take to increase your dog's damage output is Voltaic Mandibles Augment. Unlike Razorjaw and Serrated Maw, the electrocution debuff doesn't actually go away until the target is dead if it's pinned down. So if your dog pounces onto a mauler, it will keep taking electrocution damage until it dies, whereas bleed and brittleness will eventually wear off in time. Not to mention that it stuns big targets like bulwarks and crushers for 5 seconds, leaving them vulnerable to being attacked as well. But to really drive home the importance of this talent, here is a demonstration of the difference between with and without Voltaic Mandibles with no other buffs on a mauler. Always have this talent when playing dog. Now, of course, you can choose to take all 3 of the talents together, giving the maximum damage output for your dog. So on top of its direct damage, your dog applies 15% brittleness, which not only amplifies its direct damage, but also increases the damage over time of both the bleed and electrocution damage. Even without the direct damage talent like Go Get 'em, you are dealing a lot more damage with your dog. So much so that it now has a much better time to kill on many of the elites and specialists. Far better than what we see from its base damage profiles alone. So, let's add everything together and see just how much faster our dog can bring down a mauler. On top of the 3 indirect talents that we just talked about, we'll also take Execution Order for the massive 150% direct damage and Unleash Brutality just for this example. I'm also going to activate Kill Order through Break the Line for an extra 50% direct damage. Given all that, in total, our dog is now dealing 200% more direct damage, 8 ticks of bleed damage, continuously applying electrocution, and applying 15% brittleness, which amplifies all damage dealt for the next 5 seconds. Let's see what this looks like now. As you can see, it's dealing a hell of a lot more damage than before, scarily so. If you swap out Unleash Brutality with Go Get 'em, I don't need to tell you that gunners will basically die in 2 seconds, but I'm going to show it to you anyway. Imagine your dog doing that to every ranged enemy within 45 meters of you that has the audacity to attack you. But wait, we're not done yet. While adding all the talents together produces a significantly more powerful dog, there are still other ways we can buff up the damage output of our beloved K9. The first is through perks on our weapons. So, just by having flag damage on your weapon, for example, you will increase your dog's damage against the majority of elites and shooters by 25%. This can easily push your dog into one-shot territory against regular shooters when further buffed. No doubt, you've also suspected by now that blessings are also capable of boosting your dog's damage output. It is true. While you can't really boost the dog's direct damage with blessings, the electrocution from Voltaic Mandibles can interact with a handful of blessings to boost its damage further. This includes the obvious ones like High Voltage, where you deal 25% more damage to enemies that are electrocuted. Since your dog's attacks force a stagger, blessings like No Respite and Executioner can also provide a powerful boost to your damage over time as well. Remember that Remote Detonation applies the stagger before the damage, meaning you can increase its damage as well by equipping weapons with these blessings. Other blessings, which offer straight damage and strength boosts like Fire Frenzy and Full Bore, can also boost the damage of the electrocution too. In fact, here is a table on all the applicable blessings that can boost the damage of your electrocution from Voltaic Mandibles, courtesy of Cooley's awesome guide. So, anything in your talent tree that just says damage and not melee or range damage can influence the output of Voltaic Mandibles. I won't prescribe which blessings or talents you should take, other than making sure that you at least have one weapon with flag damage and high voltage as well, since it offers so much value and consistency. But if you want a suggestion, I'd recommend a dog stick, which is the RBT's Shock Maul with flag damage, high voltage, and executioner. The last perk can be whatever you like it to be, maybe carapace or unyielding depending on your loadout. Pick and choose the talents and weapon combinations you like with the blessings you want while you have the dog out and about. The weapons and blessings you choose will be a matter between potential and consistency, so pick something that best suits your playstyle and intention. With that, we've come to the end of this video. Just to recap what we've learned since we've gone through so much, we've looked through all the damage profiles of the Cyber-Mastiff, including its unique blitz, Remote Detonation. We've explored the different ways we can boost our dog's damage through our talent tree, and how investing into them can really push up the damage our dog deals. Remember to always take Voltaic Mandibles as well if you're playing dog. Finally, we saw how we can further boost the damage output through the use of perks and blessings on our weapons. So, having learned everything there is to know about the Cyber-Mastiff, I think you can now be a certified Cyber-Mastiff handler. Congratulations, Varlet. Now, go forth, terrorize the battlefield with your K9 killing machine. Give the enemies PTSD and make them wish they never spawned in your mission. Not when your K9 companion is on patrol. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you in the next one, Varlets.